disappointment for the team UAE. You know, they were definitely unlucky with the crash of Adam Yates. That was for sure their leader. That was for sure the designated guy to win. I mean, those two uphill finishes are like his backyard. You know, that's what he specializes in.
Welcome to the Move podcast. I'm JB Hager, and I'm just going to tell you right now, just strap into your seat because we're going to cover a lot. Fortunately, I'm joined by two of the smartest people in cycling that know so much. Spencer Martin is here and Johan Bruyneel, and we're going to cover a lot today. There's so much. I was thinking about it, and later in the show, I do want to ask you, Johan, about what that's like juggling so many races all around the globe, basically, for a team and a team manager. It must be overwhelming. But let's, just for the sake of keeping our heads straight, let's start with the UAE Tour. All right, let's jump right into that. Why don't you give us the broad overview, Spencer, and then we do have some things to dig deep into on the UAE Tour.
Yeah, we'll let the UAE Tour be our North Star as we try to navigate this insane week of racing. I mean, I'm in early season form myself, not as fit as I thought. I start Saturday morning, 4 races on. I'm up. I'm standing for all of them, doing push-ups at 5:30 in the morning, getting ready. And then by this morning, I was so tired, just laying on the couch with my screens close to me. I couldn't even get close to the TV to watch up close. But we'll work backwards on the UAE Tour, just so we're not walking through stuff that happened a week ago. But Saturday was a sprint stage. Tim Merlier on Soudal Quickstep now came over from Alpecin Taconic, Phoenix, whatever it was when he was there, wins in like a supremely powerful sprint. I don't know if anyone saw these numbers. Velon releases these sprint numbers after the fact. And it was like these sprints at UAE Tour, I was saying in the pre-show, the UAE Tour is almost a laboratory where the sprints are like pure sprints and the climbs are pure climbs. They do have some crosswinds mixed in with, which I guess would muddle the lab a bit. But Merlier wins like an unbelievably strong sprint on Saturday. And then today, going into the final climb, we had a climb on earlier in the week. And you would think UAE, not big climbs, but no, these climbs are massive. I would say the biggest climbs in early season stage racing, ironically, the closest thing you would see to like a European Grand Tour climb, but they don't have snow there, so they can go up very high and do the longest climbs earlier in the year. And on the stage, I believe it was stage 3, that climb, UAE had some problems where Adam Yates crashes hard. The first stage was a sprint. Second stage is TT, won by Brandon McNulty. Second place is another UAE rider, Jay Vine. Third is Mikael Berg. So you think, well, UAE, they've got this on lock. Nothing can go wrong. Stage 3 rolls around, the first summit finish. They kind of start to struggle because Adam Yates gets hurt. And I think if you think about the UAE Tour, like maybe not that important to the casual fan, I would guess it's very important to the people that sponsor the UAE team. It's their home race. They want to win it. They used to make Tadej Pogačar come to it because it was just an easy way to win it. Who's going to beat him at this race? Adam Yates kind of was here as his understudy, you know, a guy who's really good at this type of race, but he crashes midway through stage 3, hits his head really hard. I mean, probably should have been taken out of the race immediately. He continues, gets dropped on the climb. Like he did not look good. It was good to see him leave the race, but UAE kind of salvages it. Ben O'Connor wins the stage. Jay Vine is second. Brandon McNulty, who had been leading the race up to that point, something looked not quite right. He finishes 14 seconds back from O'Connor, but you still think, well, Jay Vine's winning or leading the race. Ben O'Connor second. Brandon McNulty third. Fast forward, we have a bunch of sprint stages, 4, 5, 6, all sprint stages. 4 is won by Tim Merlier. I mean, it's all kind of like Tim Merlier versus the field. And then the stage 5 is won by Olaf Koy because Merlier was in the wind. Koy was protected. Stage 6, Merlier wins again. I mean, the guy looks unbelievably powerful. I don't know how much this translates to harder sprints later in the year. Like, for example, Caden Groves he just looked like he was struggling with the pure power of these guys. Like even Sam Welsford looked quite good versus Caden Groves. But if you remember at the Vuelta last year, as the hard stages get harder, or Caden Groves just gets better and better. And we've kind of seen the elimination of just pure sprint stages at major European stage races. So take it all with a grain of salt. But we get to the final stage today, stage 7, crosswinds early. Like the TV starts and the race is all blown up across the road, and it's just flat into the final climb. Jebel Hafit. It is, I'll read the stats. It's a serious climb. It's 10K, 11K long at 7% average. JB, you said it looked like a miserable slog up there. It starts interesting because Ben O'Connor has his decathlon team on the front. Even though they're not leading the race, they're second going into it. UAE is kind of nowhere to be seen as a team. Brandon McNulty dropped immediately. Like the moment the road goes up, he's dropped. So it's like, well, something's not quite right there, because he should be, at least competing inside the final kilometer. Then Jay Vine, the race leader, gets dropped a few kilometers later with the Decathlon AG2R on the front. So right there, the race leader's gone. It looks like you start thinking, well, Ben O'Connor is going to just ride this thing in, win this race. Well, he kind of burns through his decathlon teammates. And in the last 2K, it starts to get messy. It looks like it maybe gets a little bit more mild. And that's when attack carts start coming. Lennert van Eetvelt, how do you say that, Johan?
Lennert van Eetvelt just gets away. And it's a really good move. I mean, this guy is, you might think like, who is this guy? He came from nowhere. Well, Johan picked him to win a stage on our outcome show last year at the Vuelta, and he went on and finished third in that stage. He's 22 years old. Belgian rider, gets clear, and it's, he's not super close on GC. So he needs to win by, I believe he needed a 20-second gap plus some time bonuses to win the overall. So you'd think, well, O'Connor, all he has to do is sit here and pace, but Eetveld's going so hard. I saw that his average power for the last 3 minutes of the stage was close to 500 watts with like a surge at the end. And that's after 20, 30 minutes of high power plus the crosswinds earlier in the day. So this guy's flying. O'Connor comes through. All he has to do is finish second to win the overall. He goes into the final turn behind Pella Bilbao, gets third, misses that 6-second time bonuses, gets a 4-second time bonus, loses the GC by 2 seconds. It was probably the most exciting finale to the UAE Tour that I've ever seen. Eetvelt wins the overall. And I would say shocked a lot of people, Johan, wouldn't you? I don't think many people saw this coming. And then UAE, ironically, wins. Them and Visma win every race this weekend except UAE's home race, which is won by a second division Lotto Destiny team.
Today's show is brought to you by Zwift. If you haven't been joining our We Do Club on our Zwift rides, you've been missing out. We've got over 1,500 members joining us every We Do Wednesday and Suffer Sunday. The Wednesday one's a little shorter, a little more casual. The Sunday one it lives up to the name, Suffer Sunday. Check it out. It's really, really a lot of fun. And if you don't have the setup at home, you probably want that so that you have the whole setup. You don't have any excuses to not get on a trainer at the very least, and you can get into it for less than you probably thought. The Zwift Smart Trainer, the Zwift Hub, is now at a better value than ever. For only $599, you get all set up, a pre-installed cassette of your choice, no fuss setup, and 1 year of Zwift. And you can also get free shipping when you enter this code, Zwift Hub at checkout, ZWIFTHUB, Zwift Hub at checkout. Again, head over to Zwift.com to grab your Zwift Hub. And don't forget that code, Zwift Hub, for free shipping. Today's show is also brought to you by Helix Sleep. We've been sleeping on a Helix mattress for a couple years now. And I kid you not, when I really noticed the difference was just a few weeks ago. We took a trip. My wife and I took a long overdue trip, and I was tossing and turning like crazy all night on that mattress. The difference it made is remarkable. So, you need to check out their lineup. There's 15 unique mattresses, luxury models, mattresses for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress that's made just for kids. You may not have known that. Every Helix Elite mattress comes with a 15-year manufacturer warranty and the same 100-night trial as the rest of the Helix collection. Take the test. Find out which one's right for you. That's what we did. First, we just did a very simple online test. Got the mattress, shows up at your door. And I don't know how they compact it into that box, and then it expands on your bed, and it's the most comfortable sleep you'll ever get. They do it, and it's amazing. They're offering 20% off on all mattresses and orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/themove, all one word. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix Sleep, Better sleep starts now. Again, it's helixsleep.com/TheMove.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the UAE Tour was, had suspense until the end. I agree. For UAE, the way they came in, they definitely came in with the ambition to win it. It's their home race. They have to win it. There's no other. Second is not good enough. They have to win it. First, second, and third in the time trial. Obviously, I think their race completely changed when Adam Yates crashed really hard. I think that was the beginning of a turnaround for them. But still, I thought that Jay Vine looked pretty good on stage 3. I think, stage 3, when he was close to Ben O'Connor. Something must have been wrong, because I don't think it's normal that both McNulty and Jay Vine didn't have any legs today. Maybe a bug or something in the team. It was not logical. Anyway, I don't think it takes anything away from Lennert van Eetvelt. He's already in great shape since the beginning of the year. We all know Brandon McNulty is super strong from the beginning of the year. He was amazingly strong in Mallorca. He already won the Tour of Valencia. He won a stage and the overall, and came into this race as the leader of the team. And Van Eetvelt already beat McNulty and Vlasov in a stage in Mallorca. So, we knew he was strong. On stage 3, he finished third, also came from the back with a really powerful acceleration at the end. So, no surprise there. 22 years old, super powerful guy. Did some really good results last year already in his first year pro. A big talent. I listened to his post-race interview, which he did in great English, by the way, cursing included. But he said,
"Isn't that the first thing you learn in the Peloton? If a foreign language is all the curse words, right?"
Yeah, probably. Yes. And I mean, it's probably not recommended to say it on TV, but anyways, he was so excited. But he said, that he said that he felt like this winter, he felt like he made a big step forward. He even thought that his power meter was broken this winter. Was surprised about the numbers he was producing. And obviously his power meter was not broken, because he's in those kind of punchy races. We're going to have to see later on, in longer climbs, but definitely very promising. I like the guy. He dares to attack. It was a tactical race at the end, but I was still surprised to see that many riders together with 2.5 kilometers to go. I think there was like 8 or 9 riders together, and so it tells me also, I haven't seen the speeds of today's climb, but I think it was pretty fast. So we keep seeing the same thing, that more and more riders are at a really high level. There were some guys up there like Max Poole, for example, a British rider, big talent. Good old Pello Bilbao, always there, trying to win the race. We had Carlos Verona up there. Of course, Ben O'Connor, Ilan van Wilder, young guy also, Belgian guy, who is still trying to win. What's the other? Michael Sturr, all of a sudden back there on a really good level. So I think it was these races are hard to win, man. And actually, little detail: Van Eetvelt wins with 2 seconds, and something that of course, it's easily said afterwards, right? But during there was one stage earlier on that he was like in a breakaway. And he actually took an intermediate sprint bonifications, undisputed, which is 3 seconds. And that's what makes him win the race. Easily said afterwards, right? Because, I think he was the best then, he deserved to win. But without those 3 seconds, he would not have won the race. He would have lost it with 1 second. So, it shows that, every second counts in modern cycling.
You guys have said that in recent years, how these intermediate sprints are becoming more of a factor, and bonifications, everything is more of a factor than it was, 10 years ago? Not as big of a factor.
It's so close. The differences between the guys are so close that Sometimes it just comes down on, decide when you attack, what happens behind. It's a fraction of a second. I mean, winning the UAE Tour with 2 seconds, with a time trial, 2 mountaintop finishes. It's, every second counts. And it was, I'm happy he wins. I think it shows also that Lotto Destiny is on a really good track to be back in the World Tour in the future. I think last year already they started to, take a different course, changed general manager. Lalonde got kicked out and Stefan Herlo came in. They made a few changes. There's a new wind in that team and they're on good course to, be back in the World Tour where they belong, in my opinion. They've been there, for a very long time. I mean, I even raced for Lotto in 1990 and 91. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they started in 84, 85 was their first year of sponsoring. So they've been around forever. It's probably the oldest team, the oldest sponsor around. So, good to see that, they're up there. And I like what I see from Lotto Destiny. Also, as you said, Spencer, Tim Merlier, unbeatable. This one stage he didn't win. He lost it. It was photo finish. Apparently, he finished on a slow flat.
I saw him. Yeah, you could see him bouncing around. It's like, this is classic. You lose the sprint. I think there was a slow leak in this thing.
Yeah. Olaf Koy won it. Also a super fast guy, of course. But one little thing I saw was, obviously Cavendish was there with his Astana train lead out, including Morkov. I'm a bit disappointed in what I saw. The lead out, in my opinion, was not on point. And Cav, in my opinion, was not. I mean, it's still early days, of course. You can't compare whatever you see from Cav now compared to a Cav in July is different. Cavendish in the Tour de France is a different animal. But I think they're looking for some kind of confirmation of, this is going to work, or, the lead out train will work. These races are not easy to get the train on point because, the stages are not very long. They're not very hard, the sprint stages. So there's a lot of people in the front and things can go wrong. But he had 3 chances and they were never anywhere near winning or the podium. So there's work to be done there. And I'm not saying with this that I'm not hopeful, but I would have loved to see Cavendish take a top finish. A win would have been nice, but a podium would have been good also because they need to get their train on the rails. And for the moment, the train is not there.
Does a guy like Cavendish, does he become a lead out coach basically? Let me figure out how to phrase this. You can't practice it the way it is in racing. You can go do your efforts and simulate a lead out, but it's not the same as in a bunch sprint. Does he? So as they lead up to July, he's got to be working with them. You need to do more of this. You need to do more of this. Is that kind of how that's going to play out? And then they figure out the order that's best, right, of their lead out.
Yeah, I think first they need to be up to pair with all the other sprint trains because this is war. I mean, if you see all these teams, how fast they go, and all these teams get better and better with this. I mean, the speeds are insane, and sometimes it comes down to just little things that you may get out of position. And Merlier, in my opinion, is the only one I've seen until now that it doesn't seem to bother whether his train get off the rails or not. He finds somewhere a wheel and then he just comes out of 5th, 6th, 7th position. But anyways, as you say, Spencer, not much can be concluded from these kind of sprints. But it's nice. I mean, Merlier in the meantime, he has won 5 races already. That's not bad, for the month of February. It's good for the confidence. It's great for the team. And, in terms of sprinters for the moment, Merlier is the king.
I mean, I'd love to. I mean, he had no team. He had no team on stage 6, and he wins that sprint easy. It was pretty impressive. I mean, I love to criticize.
He has one guy, though. He has one guy. Sorry, he has one guy, Bert van Lerbergen. Tall guy. Amazing story, actually. They're school friends. They went to school together, like when they were kids. And they're now, teammates on Soudal Quickstep. And van Lerbergen is an amazing, I mean, the way he sometimes brings him to the front without leading him out, but putting him in position. And sometimes for a sprinter like Merlier, that's enough. I mean,
I was going to, like, similar to Cavendish, JB, I do kind of wonder if he's not good at teaching lead outs. Just a crackpot theory I have. Sometimes, like Michael Jordan would probably make a bad basketball coach because, like, just go by everybody and dunk it. What's the problem here? Like, Cavendish probably isn't actually that good at telling them exactly what they need to do, but he really just needs one. He needs one guy to pilot him through one sprint at the Tour, and the season is a success. And I think he's probably going to be fine. If this was 3 years ago, I'd say, oh, he's shot. He can't compete anymore. But we've seen him, like, he can just turn, like, what do they say? Like, turn chicken shit into chicken salad so fast. Like, he can look really washed up, and then July rolls around and he looks fantastic. So I wouldn't panic about that. One thing about Lotto Destiny, which I guess is the name of the team now, I almost wonder if they were helped by relegation, Johan, where they could sit back, kind of take a deep breath and get off contracts they felt like they needed to get off. Like, if they're still on the World Tour, I wonder if they keep Caleb Ewan, and then they don't focus on as much on these younger riders who've performed really well for them, because they just feel the pressure to, like, we got to just eke out every point we can. But, like, going back to the second division, they've been able to pick and choose the races they want to go to. They can reliably pick up points at smaller races. Like, they've just skipped the Giro. I don't think they went last year, and they're not going this year.
Exactly. They also set out down under, for example. They didn't.
Yeah.
It has its advantages. If you're strong in the second division, it's not a bad place to be. Because if you make sure you're first or second, you're doing all the big races anyway.
Yeah.
You got to pick and choose. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, we got to see Alpecin benefit from that for some time.
For 3 years. Yeah. For 3 years.
All right. Any other takeaways from UAE Tour before we move on? I'm just, like, my head is spinning just trying to think of who was in what race. It's all a blur.
I mean, my general takeaway is, like, disappointment for the team UAE. They were definitely unlucky with the crash of Adam Yates. That was for sure their leader. That was for sure the designated guy to win. I mean, those two uphill finishes are like his backyard. That's what he specializes in. So, we can't be too harsh for them. But from experience, I know that, if you're in a race, in your local race, you're the dominant team in the world. I mean, it's fair to say, I think, that UAE and Visma Lease Bike are the two strongest teams in the world. If you're there, it's so much pressure because everybody, I mean, listen, these sponsors, these sheikhs, they just expect you to win. They're paying so much money. Say, okay, we're just going to win this. Okay, let's bring the strongest team. Okay, we understand that we're not bringing Pogacar because he wants to focus on a little bit later, but let's bring the strongest possible team. I mean, if you look, Adam Yates, Jay Vine, McNulty, I mean, those three guys would be leaders on any team, right, for this race, and they don't win, and they're not even on the podium. It's stressful. It's they go away from this week with a disappointment. I think there's, they have valid excuses to not have won it, but in a few weeks, those excuses, are forgotten. We didn't win UAE, so now we need to win the next one, right?
Now I'm thinking about you as a director with a U.S. based team. Coming back, when you would come race in the U.S., did you feel that pressure? One, and then that's really funny. You're probably going, I can't believe I feel all this pressure to race in America.
It was always the same. Tour of California, Tour of Georgia, same thing, always. You're there and you have to win. And you know what? I mean, these races are not easy to win. You know, I mean, even sometimes, even if the UAE Tour, obviously the participation was high quality. Sometimes, you know, Tour of Georgia, Tour of California, the participation was so. Still not easy to win. And when we didn't win, it was not happy times. Not happy times. So yeah, I feel for them. I feel for the management of UAE. Of course, I think you know, around the sponsors, around the sheikh, there's obviously advisors who understand the sport a little bit, but that one is not in the back for the moment. So it ups the pressure for the future.
And I'll add this to it real quick because we've got to move on. But I watched that Yates crash, and rarely do you see in road cycling where they turn and hit the back of their head. Uh-huh. And when they put him back on that bike so quickly, I immediately thought, this guy's got a concussion. Like that should not have happened.
But you know what, JP? It's still, you know, any cyclist and any staff member still has that reflex, you know, let's see what happens. Let's see, you know, he speaks, he can say his name, you know, his arms work, his legs work. Let's put him on the bike. And then we look at the damage once he's going, right?
Yeah.
Listen, Adam Yates is also an experienced rider already, right? So, ultimately, he has decided to go on. Plus, there are race doctors there. They've assessed him. I don't really know if it was a concussion. But it's also, you know, I mean, listen, it's the pressure. You know, the pressure of, hey, I'm here. I have to do my job. I have to deliver the win. I need to try. Yeah. You know, I think it was wise for him to stop. But because he obviously felt shaken, but I don't think personally that he will have a concussion. I mean, maybe tomorrow I have to swallow my words but it's not easy, and it's also not easy to establish a protocol for this. Because it's so subjective, you know. Ultimately, it's the rider who needs to feel what's going on, and it's a very sensitive subject, because you could, in theory, if the authority lays with an external person, they could say, okay, you know what, you're out, and it may be that it's not such a big deal, you know, but out of precaution, they take him out of the race. So I think it's something that needs to be worked on. You know, I've read several, you know, studies that they're working on sensors in the helmets that could, you know, be, you know, giving a signal of, okay, this impact is hard enough.
Oh, wow.
To take you out of the race, but man, when you hit your head, all the impacts are hard.
More numbers, exactly. Spencer, more numbers for you. Well, that impact was a 78 on a scale. You're going to love that. You're going to
I think we should remember too. I mean, I think they checked his helmet, and if there's no cracks, like it looks obvious to us, but they might not even know that he hit his head really hard. You know, because they're not seeing that. They're in the car. Maybe they see it on TV, but they don't see the replay yet. It's got to be chaotic. And then, send him on his way. And then they see the replay 2 hours later and it looks obvious. But
one of the disadvantages of cycling is, you know, compared to any other sport, you know, like rugby or, you know, like you can take a guy out and set him on the bench and he can come back into the game. Cycling, no. The race goes on. You know, it's not like, hey, let's assess this guy. Hey, Peloton, everybody waits until we decide that Adam Yates is okay to continue. That's the problem in cycling. So I think it's improved a lot compared. Listen, before there was no protocol at all. It was okay. You check if your arms and your legs work. As a rider, you instinctively get back on your bike and you get your legs moving, even if it hurts, you know, and even if and then you decide, okay, you know, bit by bit, you get back into motion and we'll see then, right? That doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some kind of system at some point where everything's standardized and better for everybody.
Today's show is also brought to you by AG1. Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should be, and it should be simple. So for the last couple of years, I've been drinking AG1 every day, no exceptions. It's just a scoop mixed in water. Very, very easy to do. You don't have to get out a blender or anything. You can actually just put it in a shaker, give it a quick shake, and it's good to go. A serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre and probiotics, and more. It's a very powerful, healthy habit, and it's also very, very simple to do. If there's one product I had to recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1. And that's why we've been partners with them for so long. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/themove. That's ag1.com/themove. Check it out. Today's show is also brought to you by Caldera Lab. It's very funny around the show. Of course, all of us dudes, none of us were using any kind of skincare products until a year ago. And now we all obsess over it. Like, hey, do you have any of this? Can I borrow some of your Caldera? Can I borrow some of yours? We're all addicted to it. And there's 3 products that they make that are great and a part of my routine. Clean Slate is how, just used to wash my face. I keep one in the shower and one by the sink. And then there's the base layer, which is just moisturizes my skin, put it on, get through your day. And the good is like a serum that you just soaks into your skin overnight. And, hey, I know this isn't the prettiest face and Clean Slate to work with, but my wife has even noticed some improvements. So start taking care of your skin now. Get 20% off with the code WEDO, WEDU, at calderalab.com. That's CALDERALAB, calderalab.com. And make unforgettable first impressions that lead to the charming words, you look younger. Again, 20% off at calderalab.com with the code WEDO. All right, now let's jump around. As I said at the top of the show, there was so much racing going on. My head was spinning the last 2 days just trying to catch up with all of it. But fortunately, these 2 gentlemen with me can keep it all straight in their heads of who was at what race. Let's go across to the O Gran Camiño, where we got to see Jonas Vingegaard do what he does. Just be Vingegaard, and which he's done, dominated that race for a couple of years in a row, correct?
Yeah, the race is only 3 years old, I believe. He's won the last 2 years, the 2 years he's participated in it. And I believe since he started racing it last year, he has won every stage that has counted for the GC. And because they run it in Galicia, which is a really wet part of Spain. Maybe it has like a Celtic origin, the people that live up there. I'm a little fuzzy on what exactly is going on in Galicia, but it's like really bad weather this time of year, and they often will have to neutralize stages or not have them, or like the stage 1 time trial happened, but it didn't count for the GC because it was so windy. They didn't want riders getting blown off the road. Won by Josh Tarling, by the way. If you guys remember we 3 talked about him on our World Championship time trial podcast last August. I think he finished, Johan, did he finish 3rd in the time trial? Am I remembering this right? In the World Championships time trial? Second. Yeah. Really good rider. No, he did finish 3rd. And then.
Who was 2nd? Oh, Ghana was 2nd.
Yeah. And really good rider, even on the road bike.
European champion time trial.
Yes. Yeah. And he's young. I think he's 20 years old. Yeah. 20 years old on Ineos.
Huge power. I mean, incredible power. Yeah.
And I was really blown away. He rides with a low cadence, like a Jan Ulrich-esque cadence. Maybe that was just a quirk of being on his road bike, but destroys everyone. This is a short time trial, 14.8K, finishes uphill on a cobble climb, finishes almost a minute ahead of the second place finisher. Like it was, I would keep that name in mind when the Olympics roll around.
Spencer, the gap, it was a huge gap, and the guys he beat were definitely going for it. But let's say that the really top guys like Jonas Vingegaard didn't go full. in that time trial because first one, it was windy, and most importantly, it didn't count for GC. So they, but anyways, don't want to take anything away. Carling is top of the world in time trialing. Really, I mean, he's my favorite actually for the Olympic championships.
I like that pick. Yeah. And because he can just focus on that. He doesn't have the pesky Tour de France to try to win, like Remco Evenepoel. And, and then really after that, it's just second year in a row. It's the Jonas show. I mean, I can't quite figure out why he comes to this race because it looks very cold and very rainy, but he comes year after year and just dominates people in the climbs. Like I saw he almost did 7 watts per kilo for something like 12 minutes on the final climb on stage 2. It's a short race. It's just a 4-stage race, but it didn't finish on an uphill finish, so he goes over the climb solo. Egan Bernal, but pretty impressive performance, comes over second, finishes second on the stage. 24-second win on a course that you would not say is super conducive to getting away. And then I thought the most important performance or most impressive performance of the week was stage 3. It finished, he attacks. It's a long way to the finish line. He goes solo, finishes 29 seconds up on, decently sized peloton, like let's say 17, 18 riders pulling, and he's just out there. He's not a big guy, but he's obviously putting out massive power to hold them off. Like just an incredible form. And then today's stage wasn't televised, which I secretly was happy for because it made our day a little bit more manageable. I think it was this same uphill finish that he won last year. Let's just imagine it was exactly the same, but with more rain.
It was.
Yeah. And Lenny Martinez impressively comes over 16 seconds down. Hugh Carthy third, 45 seconds down, and then Egan Bernal fourth, 48 seconds down, finishes third in the GC. Lenny Martinez finishes second. If Lenny Martinez sounds familiar, he was the really young rider who was he leading the Vuelta for a bit last year, Johan?
Yeah. 2 days or 3 days.
Yeah. French rider on Groupama FDJ definitely looks good this year.
Son of ex-Olympic champion Miguel Martinez. His dad was
mountain bike, right?
Olympic champion mountain bike. His granddad was Tour de France rider. It's a cycling family. Big climbing talent. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same, Spencer. I don't really understand the reasons why Jonas wants to go to this race. He wins all the stages. Definitely great training. The competition was great. I mean, it's not like he wins against second-degree riders. Bernal is there. Carapaz is there. Martinez is there. Carty, Uran. There's really good riders. So what really is impressive is that every time he decided to go, he went, and nobody was able to follow him, except Bernal on stage 2. I think on stage 2, he could follow him until about 800 meters from the top. That's what I like most about this. I mean, it was kind of clear that Vingegaard was going to do the same as last year. I mean, at this point, Spencer, I just think these Visma riders or this Visma team, they're just trying to replicate what they've done and just compare their numbers. Okay, we don't look. The result is fine. We're going to win anyway. Let's just see if we produce more power. That's a bit what it looks like. But, Bernal being able to follow Vingegaard was something that I really like to see. He already showed hopeful signs in the Colombian Championships. He did a really good race there. In the Tour Colombia, he was at a good level also, not riding with Ineos, but riding with the Colombian national team. Now back in Europe, it's good to see. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Bernal can join, whenever we talk about the big 3 or the big 4, Tadej and Jonas and Primoz and Remco eventually. In my opinion, Bernal belongs in that list, So I would like to see him back there. I agree with what you said in the pre-show, Spencer, that we haven't seen Bernal on this level since his win in the Tour of Italy. So hopefully he gets a lot of confidence out of this. I know he gets a lot of confidence out of this for sure, but You know, it's good to see, and hopefully he can build on this and do a proper preparation for the Tour de France. You know, we need him.
We're already building all this anticipation with Remco, Roglic now on another team, Pogačar, Vingegaard. If Bernal is back in the mix, like, this is setting the stage for the best showdown we've seen since this show has begun in 2017.
My only concern, and I was very impressed. Like, Jonas didn't really attack. He just kind of, I don't want to say the word motorbike, but he just kind of did look like a moto. He just like rode Bernal off his wheel. But if you step back and you're like, well, he got dropped.
He did attack initially.
Yes,
to make able to join. And then when there were two guys left, then he rode him off the wheel. Yeah.
But that's pretty good company to be in. You know, if you make it to 800 meters to go to the top of the climb and get ridden off Jonas's wheel, like you might be up there with some of the best riders in the world right now. My only concern is, so let's say he goes to the Tour. We are already starting to see the Ineos bubble form. You know, it's this is GC bubble that forms. It feels like every Grand Tour. We saw it at the Giro last year. I thought it really hurt Geraint Thomas, where they have 3 or 4 riders just kind of blob in the top 10 of the GC, and they just don't pick anyone, and they all kind of ride their own race. And, you know, it's like, let's say Bernal finishes 7th of the Tour. That'd be great for Bernal. And what is Pidcock? Let's say he finishes 8th and Geraint Thomas finishes 5th. It's just, it's just an odd team where you think, well, Bernal's back. This is great for them. And it's like, oh, wait, it's another rider that can finish high up, but maybe not win a Grand Tour at the moment because the Grand Tours are getting so competitive to win.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, Bernal has the advantage that there's no obligation for him. Anything if he gets close, it's good enough. So it's, you know, if he's able to follow them for a little bit, I think winning the Tour for Egan Bernal is going to be difficult. Maybe he needs another year to get back to the level, if he ever gets back. And then, you know, the question is his best level from before good enough to win a Tour de France, you know, nowadays? Now we also need to figure out what is Bernal's personal ambition. If you ask me, Bernal wants to win the Vuelta. That's his main objective, because he's won the Tour, he's won the Giro. There's one left to check off, you know, and that's a very achievable goal, in my opinion.
You're a mind thief. That's what I was going to say. His time trialing is probably not good enough to win the Tour, because let's say he just is as good as Pogačar and Jonas on the climbs. Well, where's he going to make the time up on the time trials? But if Sepp Kuss can win the Vuelta, Bernal can win the Vuelta. You know, he can climb just as good as Kuss. And if it's, you know, he just needs a few oddball things to happen to make up for the time he's going to lose in the time trials, he could absolutely win the Vuelta, I think, with this form that he's found himself in.
He doesn't even have the Tour de France on the schedule. So that's probably not part of the plan, to your point.
Yeah, he's going to go. He's going to go to the Tour.
Because it's the best
they don't have a full team in there yet, right? They only have like 3 or 4 riders. They're one of the only big teams not to have a full Tour team announced.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it could be good for him just to get a Grand Tour in his legs before he goes to the Vuelta. I think that could help him a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's not this year. Maybe it's next year's Vuelta. You know, I mean, listen, if Vingegaard goes to the Vuelta like he said he will, then hey,
life happens. I mean, you know, that was a pretty clean, magical run Visma had last year. Yeah, that's not guaranteed. You never know.
Of course,
what's going to happen.
Also, honorable mention for Kian Uiterbroeks. Really good race. His first race with Visma after, you know, a bit of a hectic off season. You know, changing teams. It looks like he's super happy, super excited, and he did a few really good results. So happy to see him up there.
All right, do we move on to Omloop Nieuwsblad?
Well, before I have one more thing to mention about O Gran Camiño, and it's going to blow up our comments. I apologize in advance.
Oh boy.
Johan, is Richard Carapaz still a GC rider? He finishes 11th here in the GC.
He's a strong rider. He's a GC
He's very
rider.
good.
He's
very
a GC
good
rider, but he's not anywhere near the 3-4 big guys. So as long as these guys are at, if we're talking about the Tour, I would say no, he can't win the Tour. He cannot win the Tour. He won the Giro, was second in the Vuelta already a few years ago also. In the meantime, things keep happening in cycling, the young guys keep coming. So it's not looking bright for him to win another Grand Tour, but he can be third. That I think third must be his ambition. You have to be a good rider to be on the podium of a Grand Tour anyway. It's easy to say, he's only fifth or sixth. It's you have to be so good to be fifth or sixth in a Grand Tour. So let's not forget that. But hey, Carapaz is, he's a fighter. He's a strong guy. He's whatever he doesn't have in terms of talent compared to a Roglic or Bernal or Vingegaard or Pogačar, he makes up with race attitude and race savviness. Also, he's a racer. So let's not forget that. But it's not going to be easy for him to win another Grand Tour.
I hope everybody listens to Johan's very objective, well thought answer, because it seems like lately other media outlets will take that question and answer and go, and then their headline is, why does Johan Bruyneel hate Carapaz?
Yeah, I don't.
I know, but that's what other media outlets do to us.
Listen,
when we answer.
JB, I mean, fortunately, we also have to say, fortunately, most of the cycling media listens to our podcast.
True.
and they're taking information from here, and with that comes that certain quotes are taken out of context because it drives traffic.
I know.
I'm fine with that.
They just did it to Lance on Remco, and it's like he never said that.
And I we can debate that. We'll debate that in a future show. But the reason I asked about Carapaz, it's almost a compliment because he's such a good winner of races, like a stage hunter. I do kind of wonder if he's going to say, man, like this GC game is just tough these days. Like I'm going to bust my butt. I'm going to finish sixth of the Tour. Go back to that. What was that? The 2022 Vuelta where he was just storming stages. Yeah. You kind of wonder if that becomes more appealing versus trying to keep up with this rat race of the GC.
Yeah, it is though. Vuelta and Giro are different. Doing that in the Tour that would be. Stages are so expensive at the Tour. It's a different game. That's why the Tour is the Tour, and the other races are not anywhere near what the Tour de France is. But hey, Carapaz, he was there already straight from the beginning. Tour Colombia, he was super strong, almost won it. So he definitely had a good off season and prepared well. We'll see him. In my opinion, not to win a Grand Tour, though.
All right, let's move on to the Omloop, where it was the Jumbo Visma, the Visma Lisa bike show. It's going to take a few shows to get used to that. From what I witnessed, and we'll start with you on this one, Johan, it looked like any one of 4 or 5 Visma riders could have won. And they have this situation now where everybody looks at Wout van Aert and they have all this other talent firing away. It's
not bad to be on Visma in those races if you're like a Christophe Laporte or Mathieu Jorgensen or Tish Benoot or in this case Jan Tratnik. It was a strange race. Omloop at Nieuwsblad. In Belgium this is the start of the cycling season. Yesterday was the start of the real cycling season in Belgium. It's huge. It's a mini Tour of Flanders. All the newspapers are building up in the week before to, and then of course with Wout van Aert being the big favorite, it's crazy. The the team Visma has, I mean, they've shown that they're incredibly strong. They're incredibly dominant. Now, it's still not easy to win that race because, at some point, it looked like, okay, there was a big selection. I think Visma had six riders out of 6 from their 7 riders were there. Then they had one guy who punctured, Affini. But it was still 5. And then finally there's a selection. There's 6 riders with 3 Vismas, right? You would say, okay, this looks like, okay, this is Visma and, nobody else going to win now. Certain things happen in the race that even Visma does not expect. For me, the race completely changed on, I think it was on the Berendries, which is one of the non-cobbled climbs, where you have Tom Skuins, Skuins or Squeens, or I always say Skuins.
I think that's right.
Attacks. I said okay because initially, if you're one of those 3 other riders, you say okay, I'm here with 3 Visma riders, right? So what should I do? The best way to get a good result is you attack. And you wait until a Visma rider comes and then hope that the 2 other Visma riders give the green light for, to get away with him, which was, in my opinion, his intention. Now, Tom Squeens was incredibly strong. I think a lot stronger than he expected himself. And he attacked. And Van Aert went after him and could not bridge the gap. And I think that completely changed the dynamic of the race, where they said, okay, hey, we're 3 guys here, but there's one guy who's actually stronger than the 3 of us, because Van Aert was just, initially the leader of the team. So anyway, still, 6 riders, 3 Visma guys, not easy to win. So in the end, it was a strange race, actually, because it took another guy who was not initially part of the first selection to come back and take advantage tactically of the situation and win. So obviously having the numbers is always a great advantage, but I would think that nobody would have expected, even with 100 kilometers to go, that Jan Tratnik would win the race for Visma Lease a Bike. They were all thinking, okay, Van Aert or Laporte or even Matthew Jorgensen. Those are the guys who need to deliver us the victory. So it was a very interesting race, very dynamic, changing situations, and what I've seen is a very dominant Visma team, probably even stronger than last year. I mean, they have reinforced themselves. Matthew Jorgensen is obviously a great addition. Van Aert is really strong. Laporte is there always. Van Baarle. Benoot. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see. What I really liked was the performance of Arnaud Delis. Arnaud Delis, young rider, super strong. Belgian favorite next to Van Aert. He's a Walloon from the French-speaking part, so it's balanced. But him being up there, collaborating, and being super strong, in my opinion, at the end of the race, the last 30K, Delis was individually the strongest rider. He repeated actually what he did last year, which is crazy if you know the roads there, and if you know what riding a bike is at that level. I mean, he went up the Mur de Grammont on the big chain ring like last year, which is crazy. He did it again, but he put everybody in the hurt. So probably not the result he expected, but performance-wise, I saw a very strong Arnaud Delis. There were some doubts about his form initially. That's also, the Belgian public and the Belgian media are very demanding, and Delis did 3 races. Didn't have, he had a 4th place and then 2 abandoned. So immediately say, Delis is not in great shape. He showed that he's in great shape and was supported by a very strong Lotto Destiny team in the final. So I really liked what I saw from Delis. So, and hopeful for the next races for him.
Yeah, I mean, what do they call him? The bull. He definitely looked like the bull during that race. I mean, he was noticeably stronger than Tom Pidcock on those climbs, which you would not guess based on kind of their rider profiles. This race was interesting because it had like 5 moves where I thought, ooh, that's the winning move. I mean, and Visma clearly has some sort of strategy, but like, okay, we're coming in, we're the favorites. We don't want to get stuck gluing the race back together. Let's just get 5 or 6 guys that could all win the race off the front as early as possible. So this race breaks up 122 kilometers out. We don't see it because it's not televised. And then they get to work like with their chisel and hammer. Like they get to the Wolvenberg. Oh, let's thin it out even more. We have 5 of 20. Let's get it to 3 to 6. They just keep reducing the group, but they don't lose as much firepower as everybody else. Like when they had they had Laporte, Jorgensen, and Van Aert in the lead group with 3 other riders. I think it was Dali, Pidcock, and Tom Squinge, however we're saying his name. That's a pretty strong position. And I think there was funky time gaps all day. They said they had a minute lead over the chase group. We find out later that wasn't true. But then you think, okay, like I can kind of see how this is going to play out. And then Squeens does what he does, shows he's so strong. That's interesting, Johan. I was confused why he sat up and waited, but that makes sense. He was waiting for Van Aert.
It was far to go still. And I probably think that he surprised himself a little bit by being like so strong and nobody being able to follow. But from there on, if you look, Jumbo's attitude changed because, until then you had the 3 Jumbo guys, or the 3 Visma guys. Sorry, it's gonna take a long time.
Yeah.
The 3 Visma guys and the other 3 collaborating with them, which makes sense. Which makes sense because people say, okay, why are they collaborating? The three Visma guys, and then why are these guys collaborating? Well, first of all, these 3 guys are 3 like Pidcock, Deli, and Skuins are 3 strong riders. They all know that it's good. The 3 of them know that it's going to be difficult to win, but they know that there's a decent possibility to have a podium. If they don't collaborate, they immediately push Visma in the situation. Okay, we're going to attack. We're going to try have one Visma rider away with another rider, right? Which is what happened after Skuins dropped Van Aert. So it made sense that they collaborated. But it's not easy to be in a situation like Visma. If you are so dominant, then still it's not easy to win the race because you create situations where you're so strong that you create a passive attitude of all the others. And you really need to be much stronger than the rest, which they are. I mean, today they showed it also in Kuurne, which to win the race, right? So it was Omloop and Nieuwsblad was an interesting race because at some point they decide, okay, Jorgensen goes up front. Jorgensen was strong, but not super strong. So obviously in the back, the 5 remaining riders, the two Visma riders are not collaborating anymore. And these other 3, Deli and Pidcock and Skuins, work together, but not full, because they know that as soon as they bring back Jorgensen, they're going to get attacked from the back. So you create a situation, you have a guy in the front, you have 5 guys in the back, but in the meantime, the speed is not super high anymore, and the peloton comes back. And that's why we all of a sudden saw the peloton so close just before the Muur de Grammont. They were there. I mean, they were there, and some guys, mainly, Tim Wellens in first instance, but some other guys came back on the Muur already on those 5 guys, and so that's a bit. It's a knife that cut both ways. You have a lot of strong guys, but as soon as you start to attack, then the peloton has a better chance to come back and also a better chance to catch that lone rider in the front, which is what happened ultimately. And luckily they had Tratnik coming back, who hadn't worked at all and is a smart rider, strong rider, and could, finally get in the good move with, on top of that, Niels Pollitt, who is a horse.
The best guy in the world to be in that move with.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, Tratnik is little. Tratnik. I think Tratnik was thinking, I'm behind a motorbike here, So on top of that, he's faster, and then you had Polit and UAE also thinking by themselves, okay, this is at least let's go for a podium, because if we don't stay ahead, we have nothing. Because Wellens had already made big efforts to come back on the Muur. So they created an ideal situation, but probably not what they had expected. Not even 10 kilometers before that move happened, that would have thought that Tratnik would be the guy that they would have to protect.
It kind of highlighted the risk or potential downside of attacking over 100 kilometers out, because you're right. When Tom's attacked, it changed everything. They're like, well, we can't go to the final two climbs with this guy, because what if he drops us and wins? Jorgensen, they start doing the old 1, 2, 3. Jorgensen goes. It reminded me of Sten de Volder. Do you remember these two Flanders wins where he would just counterattack? Boonen's in the group. De Volder wins. The problem is Jorgensen was running out of gas because he had been off the front in that lead group for so long. And then, as you say, everything it was really surreal, because you're seeing the time gap a minute, and then it just is like an accordion, just like coming back together so fast. There was a moment where I thought, oh, this could get dicey. If this all comes back together, there's guys sitting in the peloton. Can Wout van Aert really win a sprint against them? And then Jan Tratnik saves the day, gets off the front with the perfect guy to be off with. He wins, so it doesn't matter. But then we saw Wout van Aert win the bunch sprint anyway. So he probably would have been able to win had it all come back together.
Yeah, well, Van Aert was he already yesterday we saw he was strong. We saw it today, by the way, in Kuurne. But I just want to mention a little bit Jan Tratnik, because he's a rider who's not very well known. He's been around forever, 34 years old. His trajectory is very uncommon. He turned pro very young. We just checked, in 2011, he was on Quickstep. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the juniors, he was top of the world, if not world champion in some kind of discipline. I don't remember if it was road or mountain bike or anything, but he was obviously a talent. Otherwise, he would not have been picked up so young by Quickstep back in the days. And then it kind of, we see he goes on small teams, struggled with, apparently with an eating disorder. Like nowadays, they're obviously, professional cycling weight is very important, but it is all very scientific, calculated and controlled. There was a time in cycling where there was this obsession about being skinny, but there was no science behind it. And I think Jan Tratnik was one of the victims of that kind of philosophy and thinking, and went down into an obsession of not eating and trying to be skinny. But if you look at what that guy is able to do, he was on a few smaller teams. Then he came back to Bahrain 4 or 5 years ago. Did some good seasons there. Won a stage in the Giro, and then I would think probably last year Primož Roglič asked Visma or Jumbo back then to hire Tratnik, and since then he's been an amazing teammate, also able to do some great results. But if you look at his performances this year already, he's been close a lot of times already. He was close in Murcia. He was close in the race in Jaén. Yeah. I think top 3, top 4 places every time. So obviously
it was third at Algarve, GC.
See,
so it's really impressive.
Yeah. So it was just waiting to come, because if you're in a race like this, if you're able to go at the end, you have to have something left in the legs, and there's not that many riders who have that capacity. So it's great to see a rider like him. And we're always talking about scientific cycling, robotic cycling. This guy's 34. He's seen it all. And finally, in the fall of his career, being on this team and being able to have this great victory is amazing to see. So I think it's a good sign for any rider to never give up, because nowadays they're coming younger and younger, 18, 19, 20 years old. They're there. And it seems like if you haven't won a big race by the time you're 23, 24, you failed. Well, you haven't, and there's always time to come back as long as you keep doing the job. So hats off to Tratnik and this amazing win.
Everybody save that. All you gentlemen, save that little Johan speech there, whatever you're failing at in life. You still have time. When I was watching the other Visma riders that are more familiar names, or I shouldn't say more familiar, but bigger stars than Tratnik, they seem so thrilled that he had won. And it going into the spring season, I would think this does even more for Visma morale, that they win with Tratnik as opposed to Wout van Aert winning 2 days in a row. Like, we're so good, we can win with anybody. Like, so going into the spring season, this has to be huge. And meanwhile, the women on Visma Lisa bike are picking up other victories elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. Omloop at Nieuwsblad for women. Unfortunately, the race was after the men. But what a race. What a race. I mean, dominated again by SD Works. Breakaway, 6 riders, 7 riders, same thing as Visma. 3 riders in there. They had Lotte Kopecky, they had what's her name, Demi Vollering, and then Lorena Wiebes, and 3 other riders. One of them Marianne Vos, and Marianne Vos, she's 36 now. She's been world champion. I don't know how many times and don't know how many different disciplines, but almost had to finish her career last year. She had a surgery to operate on an artery in a leg, a very common injury with cyclists, but obviously it was well done. She recovered well, and she's back up there. And Lotte Kopecky was unable to shake her on the Muur, on the Bosberg, and then tactically amazing race from Marianne Vos and beating the world champion in Belgium. That was quite the performance. Her 249th win on the road, only on the road. So add to that all the cyclocrosses, all the tracks. She's the Eddie Merckx of women's cycling,
and has to take on the strength of SD Works as a whole.
Yeah,
that's huge.
But it shows that it's not, SD Works has not consumed all of the women's major objectives. That, like, you still can't have Voss come out of the woodwork and beat a team, not by herself, but with far less support. Johan, I think, mentioned the pre-show. This could make the Olympics pretty interesting, especially since she'll be teammates with Demi Vollering at the Olympics. Like, that's a nice second card to have to play. Probably one of the best riders of all time.
Yeah, definitely the best female rider of all time, bar none. That's for sure. It's an Olympic year. The course in Paris suits her. It's going to be a difficult job to be the manager of the Netherlands women's team. I think it always is, but in this case, wow, that's going to be quite a challenge. Not a bad position to be in, but sometimes it can work against you. But I mean, she's already Olympic champion. I don't know if it's multiple ones or multiple times. I know she won at least one, but probably more than one.
Well, London was her, and then Rio was her teammate. It was a Dutch woman whose name I'm forgetting now. Very famous Dutch woman.
Van Vleuten.
No, because she actually crashed in that race. The other historically great Dutch woman. It was Anna van der Breggen is who it was.
Anna van der Breggen. Yeah. But anyways, Marianne Vos is, the GOAT. No question about that.
Well, it's a good thing we get to talk about now. We get to talk about Kuurne, Brussels-Kuurne, because we've hardly talked about Visma Lisa bike. So that one, we'll lead off with you on this one, Spencer, the Wout van Aert show. Again, what a great weekend to see his teammate Tratnik win and come back and get the victory the following day.
Yeah, well, this is the easiest race of the weekend to talk about because it wasn't a lot. We didn't see a lot. We turned the TV on, and JB, I think you're right. Like the fact that Wout wins the bunch sprint yesterday, throws his teammate a win. Visma's so good. They're like using major objectives to feed their teammates wins, which is kind of unbelievable. But we turn the TV on. Coverage starts at around like 93, 92K to go. What do we see? We see Visma at the front, breaking a group off. Few Ks go by. Wout van Aert's at the front. I'm like, well, this is interesting. He breaks a smaller group off. Almost the exact same thing we saw the day before. He gets away with Tim Wellens, who was really good, obviously, at Omloop to pull that back together. And I think Wellens flatted out of the lead group at Omloop. I'm not sure, but I think he did.
He did. No, he did.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
So it was Tim Wellens and then Orai Lascano. Is that kind of how you say his name?
Lascano.
And he's been good all year. You know, he won the Classica Ion, something like that. Yeah, where Tratnik was in the chase group.
Yeah.
So it's those three immediately just blow this gap out. And this is with nearly 90 kilometers to go. It kind of looked like
the Australian guy.
Oh yeah, Lawrence. I think he's a Kiwi. I think he's from New Zealand.
Yeah,
Lawrence
yeah.
Pith
Yeah.
on FDJ. You might think he's French from his name, but he's from New Zealand, I believe, and he's fast. So kind of a problem to have him there. Wout just keeps, and I was surprised. I mean, those guys are all really strong. You could immediately see anytime the road went uphill, they would hit these climbs, you know, they're like 1 to 1.5 kilometer cobbled climbs. They would struggle to stay on Wout's wheel. And immediately, and not immediately, but eventually Pithy's dropped. The other two riders stay with them. And we don't even really see the peloton for an hour and a half. Like I didn't even know if they existed or not. We just kind of see these three riders going. Matteo Jorgensen is chasing in a small group behind with Matej Modric. They eventually catch Pithy, but that's kind of it. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird that Jorgensen was, I guess, technically chasing a teammate, but they weren't really going to catch him. They immediately had a 2-minute gap and it wasn't coming down. Those guys were just the strongest riders in the race. Probably no one in the chase group could ride as fast as them. So there was no way to pull it back.
Plus also, you know, what you have in those situations, Spencer, you know, these other teams and the other riders there, they know what's going on. They know Visma is strong. And, you know, once you're up there, even with Van Aert, and even because both, let's face it, both Wellens and Lascano knew that they were not going to win. But they say, hey, you know, let's just ride with him. At least we're second and third because
you're guaranteeing a podium.
You know, we're out of the top 10. And they did their job, you know. I mean, I think Wellens is amazing. He was on par, I think, with Van Aert, although we don't know if Van Aert really tried 100% to go away because it would have been really far. But, you know, Wellens was never in difficulties. Lascano was a few times in difficulties, but I mean, strong performance. I mean, he was second in Dwars door België, I think, last year on Movistar in one of those it was Harelbeke or no Waregem, one of those semi-classics, which was, you know, really, really strange to see a Spanish guy up there on the podium, and now third in Kuurne. So super strong guy, young rider still, very strong, obviously in great shape. You know, he already won the Classic Hager, Spanish champion also. And, you know, also, you know, saw his post-race interview. Congratulations for, you know, a Spanish rider to speak so well English. It was good to see. But yeah, I mean, once those three guys were gone, the race was over. And it was just a waiting game then to see, you know, if Van Aert was going to finish solo or if he was going to win in the sprint. But he was probably very confident that he was going to win. And I would say for Visma, first of all, but especially for Van Aert, confirmation that he did the right thing. He shortened his cyclocross season, you know, took a different approach, you know, puts everything on the two big monuments that he wants to win, Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. And for the moment, I think his plan works. He's third yesterday, win today. And now tomorrow he goes straight to Tenerife, to the Teide, to altitude for 2 or 3 weeks to fine tune his form. And let's see now, I think he's shown that he's the strongest of the peloton. Visma is the strongest team. The only unknown factor is how strong is he going to be when Mathieu van der Poel enters the game. That's a different story, but we don't know that yet. So that's going to be interesting.
I mean, those guys I thought they did a decent job. I mean, Lozcano had an attack inside the last K. Yeah, he tried something, and then Wellens was decently strong in the sprint. And same thing with Niels Pollitt yesterday. You might think it's a little weird, like, well, why did he just lead Tratnik to the finish and then easily get beat? But if you're UAE on Saturday, well, you don't have a sprinter. Tim Wellens isn't going to win. So second's not terrible. And you kind of saw the same thing today where, well, we could sit up, refuse to work and get caught, but we're not going to do better than second or third. So we might as well just take that. Then I think you said this, Johan, in the season preview show where you said last year, Wout van Aert kind of looked like he lacked endurance at certain points where at late in races, he was vulnerable. We are seeing the opposite of that this year. I mean, this guy looks...
We need to wait, Spencer. These races are 200 kilometers or less. The monuments are different. It's 260, right? 260, 270. That's a different...
Yeah, it could be another, I guess, 90 minutes of racing.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's also not started his training yet. So this is not a terrible starting point.
No, it's going to go. I mean, definitely. I think they're on track. They're on track with their new approach. Limiting the cyclocross races, now going to altitude and betting everything on the two big races. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a lot of pressure for Wout van Aert also, like yesterday, like he did an amazing race, right? So, I mean, this is how difficult it is to be Wout van Aert in Belgium, right? Amazing race, finishes third, celebrates the victory of his teammate. Now, I've seen comments saying, there you again. Van Aert is again celebrating the victory of a teammate. When is he going to win himself? It's like, wow. It's hard to be Wout van Aert, man. Yeah. It's hard.
I do think the thing in his favor, and you mentioned the pre-show, Van der Poel, same thing. He has a collection of like 7 one-day races that he's targeting. He's going to training camp, otherwise not doing stage races, spring stage races, similar with Van Aert. But when Van der Poel gets to these races, you also said this in the previous show, he will be the favorite. Like Van Aert, it sounds a little ridiculous to say, can kind of play a backseat role to Van der Poel, and all the attention will be on him since he's been winning these races in the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, and then we can speculate again, when they're going to be together, we're going to speculate to say, okay, Van Aert versus Van der Poel. Van Aert is in the advantage because he has a stronger team. But then what we'll see is that probably Van der Poel will attack so early and he will eliminate all the other teammates, and it's going to be Van Aert against Van der Poel again. But, if you look on paper right now, I would say Van Aert is in a good situation because Visma is in a good situation because, Van Aert is in great shape and they have 3-4 other riders who are candidate winners of those classics, where Van der Poel's team is basically Van der Poel supported by a team of helpers who it's going to be more difficult for them to win.
All right. Last but not least, now we break down a couple races in France. I'm kidding.
We should mention this kind of rolls into a point I was going to make. So there was 2 races in France, the Fon Ardèche and then Faux-Drôme Classic, 2 really similar races, really hard races. UAE, Juan Ayuso wins the Saturday one, really strong front group. I mean, these races are so hard. Just the talent and the class decants out and contest the win. Ayuso beats Romain Grégoire, Matthias Skelmoza, and then today it was Mark Hirschi. There was 2 UAE guys. He attacks. Juan Ayuso sits back, wins the sprint. Hirschi wins. But that means every race this weekend was won by UAE or Visma. And in the cases Visma won, second place was UAE. So UAE or Visma wins every race this weekend except the home race of UAE, the UAE Tour, which is won by a second division team. So it's like stunning in their dominance, but also then the oddity that the race in the actual United Arab Emirates is not won by UAE.
Yeah, I mean, they would, I still, I mean, I don't know what happened. They definitely went in there with the intention to win, but hey, winning 2 other races and being second on two other races. These are the 2 best teams for a reason. And
it's almost like the gap feels like it's grown between
they're
them.
They're already super present with their dominance from the beginning on. And, this is just preparation for them. These are not the big goal. So that's the scary part.
All right. Before we part ways, Johan, are there any slots available still for the We Do Travel Paris-Roubaix trip?
Yes, there is 1 spot left. 1. So whoever wants to join needs to be fast. Check it out on our section of travel on wedo.team. 1 spot left for an amazing experience. Paris-Roubaix Friday ride with ex-winner, three times winner, Johan Museeuw and George Hincapie. Saturday, Gran Fondo, part of the Move team. And Sunday, private VIP experience in the presence of ex-winner Johan and George and myself.
If you're interested in that, it's a cool experience. And Johan's there as your director. He breaks down the ride for the day. He's in the team car. It's very cool, well supported, and a lot of fun. You probably make some friends for life too, whoever's on that trip. If you're interested, go to wedo.team, wedu.team/travel. You'll see it at the top of the menu bar. And then also before we go, I heavily encourage our listeners to check out the Move Legends show with Ekimov. It just released a couple days ago. It is great. Here are a few comments that were on our YouTube channel. Tanner writes, pretty crazy. I was watching the old Tour de France videos and saw Ekimov and thought, I bet they'll put him on the Move soon. A couple days later, he's on. Adrian writes, I'm wearing my See You in the Douches in Eki's honor today. If you listen to that episode, you'll get the whole story. That's where the phrase came from. Javi writes, what a guy. I remember him perfectly. He had a massive engine. Congratulations from Spain. See you in the douches. And one more from Campy Boy. I remember in 2005 in Calgary, Johan was there with Lance for the Tour de Courage cancer fundraiser.
Tour de Courage. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It says, when I first met you, Johan, I said, hello, Ekimov. It's nice to meet you.
You know what? I remember that. Wow.
They say you two could pass for brothers. That's funny.
It's funny, actually. JB, it's, some people may not know this, but Eki and I were teammates on Rabobank. And it happened quite often that, the postcards that people came to sign, they came with Ekimov's or with mine. Ekimov. Yeah, they did.
Very funny. Great interview, by the way. You and George did such a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't want to give away too much, but taking a big old drag on a cigarette pre-time trial, legend. It'd
be like the trend in a few years.
He's a legend already. Just for that, he's a legend. He's a legend for many other reasons, but that gives him the title of legend. But by the way,
if you haven't listened to that interview, go check it out now. It's in all of our podcast feeds for the Move and also on YouTube. Here, if you're watching on YouTube, you can click on it right now and check it out. It's so worth it. Johan Spencer, thank you so much. That is a lot to cover. I think. Spencer, you need to go check on Mrs. Martin and see if you're still married, if you've been watching all these races.
It's been a little dicey at times. The morning time actually helps you. It's like I feel like it's harder for Johan when it's this crazy.
Yeah,
right?
but you know, Spencer, I don't have the problem. I don't have to check on anybody. I can do whatever I want.
He just has to make sure the dogs get some exercise, right? All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to The Move.
Okay, thanks. Bye.